Um, I don't know where to start. Shall we start probably in Dortmund? I think we should start in Dortmund with Borussia Dortmund not managing to win a match. I was sure they would win. I would have bet on a 3 or 4 goals margin because Mainz 05 was out of form, having lost their last 4 games. Borussia Dortmund, as we thought, had managed to in great fashion to win the most difficult match in Augsburg, 3-0 the Sunday before. What went wrong?
Edin Terzic was asked that question and he didn't really have an answer. As armchair psychologists, we can lean back and theorize over fear or the weight of history bearing on them. I think what went mostly wrong on a more sort of banal level was the script of the last match day just didn't go according to plan. Starting with Bayern taking an early lead in the 8th minute, that was really a psychological setback for Dortmund, as much as they knew about it. It didn't help. It increased the pressure. And I think in a strange way, and again, you'd have to ask the players, but it almost felt as if at that moment they realized that it's not a foregone conclusion. Yes, I agree with you. We all thought they would win the game. But there's one thing to thinking you'll win the game to then suddenly after 8 minutes thinking, oh, now we have to win. Now a point is not going to be enough. And that, I think, put more pressure on the team. And then when they took a few minutes later, when Mainz took the lead, then suddenly you have not 1 goal, but 2 goals to score minimum. And then they missed a penalty for a quick equalizer. And then they conceded a second goal from, I think, the second attempt from Mainz. So, if you will, a lot of things that could have gone the wrong way, all went the wrong way for Dortmund over the space of 25 minutes or so. And they never recovered from that.
Let's talk about this penalty, because that's a situation I typically hate. So you have Emre Can, who has scored 5 goals from the last 5 penalties for Borussia Dortmund. And then he's having the ball, he's going to the penalty spot, and then Sebastian Haller comes and they chat, and in the end, Sebastian Haller takes the ball. And I was thinking, also football players are probably thinking in stories or whatever. So, and that would be the, not end, but another perfect chapter of this fantastic Sebastian Haller recovery story. Having diagnosed with cancer, fighting it, coming back from it, being very important with his 9 goals in the second part of the season. And then he so like, yes, and he takes scoring his 10th goal, equalizing for Borussia Dortmund, and now they are set on their way to the title, and then he misses it. And I haven't heard anything about it in the because Borussia Dortmund players were not talking much after the game, and so and especially not in detail. But was that maybe the decisive detail of these 90 minutes in Dortmund?
It definitely felt like a very momentous moment in the wrong sense. Dortmund could have had momentum. Edin Terzic said that Sebastian Haller felt well. And of course, nobody wanted to criticize him for taking the ball, but again, when you see him in the last few seconds before he took the penalty, how he just doesn't look very confident, doesn't look very happy. I think, again, it's that realization suddenly kicking in, oh, I have to score this. I have to score this. This could be the most important penalty of the season. And maybe it was. Maybe it was. But certainly Dortmund, especially when they didn't get given a second penalty that they could have had, never really looked like themselves again until a few good moments in the second half of the season when they found a very late equalizer. Maybe if they have 10 more minutes, they find the winner. But they gave themselves too much to do. And the safety blanket that they had for 8 minutes or so, with Bayern drawing in Köln, ultimately was pulled away from them. And that made it, I think, even more painful.
I think we have to talk about class today. In a sense, how you deal with winning and losing. And I think it was a class act by Borussia Dortmund, how they took the defeat. I found it very moving. Nobody or very few people leaving the stadium, celebrating the team, celebrating especially Edin Terzic, who is he is a fan who became the head coach of the team. There is this famous picture of him in one of the German Cup finals some years ago, where he's standing in the Olympia Stadium in one sector with the Borussia Dortmund fans wearing a yellow-black hat and a yellow-black scarf and so on. So people actually love him in Dortmund, and we talked about it. He managed a tremendous turnaround of the season, but still, it was classy how they took it. But my impression is it will take a long time to recover from it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Christoph. I think that because the second half of the season was so much better than the first, you can see it even from some of the stuff that Hans-Joachim Watzke, the CEO, has said this week. Sorry, has said on Monday. I think that the realization will be that they didn't really lose it in isolation on the last match day of the season. But ultimately, the performance throughout, especially the first half of the season, just wasn't quite enough to win a championship. It would have been, let's face it, a bit of a miracle to win a title with 73 points. And they fell short of that. I think you have to get to the point, and we've talked about this in relation to Dortmund for many years now, where reaching points below the 80s is the norm for them and not a club record. They're still underachieving in my book relative to their strength. And I think they should take heart from the fact that they now have a team that works much better, functions much better. Players are scoring. Sebastian Haller has really changed the dynamic of how this team works. They're bringing in some good new players. Benzibaini is coming. I think Kamada is coming as well. So I don't think there's any reason to feel despondent. Of course, it's going to hurt. It was a historic chance. Next year is going to be more difficult, simply because Bayern will not play another season with 71 points. It's almost inconceivable. But Dortmund should look at themselves and should target much more consistent output, which then also will make them more competitive in the Champions League and especially in the Cup where they're underachieved. So I don't think it's going to take too long. I think they can use it the way Jurgen Klopp has often used these massive defeats on the last match day or in finals, and tell to his players, look, let's get there again, but let's make sure that we use this as motivation. And I think they will do.